Welcome to the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast with your host, Andrew Keel. This is the podcast where you can get the education you need to invest 100% passively in the highly profitable niche of mobile home parks.
Welcome to the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. This is your host, Andrew Keel. And today we have an amazing guest in Mr. Gabriel Hamel of Hamel Investments. Before we dive in, I want to ask you a real quick favor. Would you mind taking an extra 30 seconds and heading over to iTunes to rate this podcast with 5 stars? This helps us get more listeners, and it means the absolute world to me. So thanks for making my day with that 5-star review of the show. All right, let's dive in. Gabriel is a real estate investor whose passion for real estate, business, and financial freedom has helped him amass a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio consisting of single-family homes, multifamily apartments, and our favorite, mobile home parks. Currently, he owns 4 mobile home parks and has 3 under contract right now. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, excited to learn about your journey. Maybe you can start there and tell us how you got into manufactured housing.
Yeah, manufactured housing. I was buying smaller multifamily type properties. I bought the majority of my portfolio with seller financing, and I really wanted to move into apartments. And the more apartments I looked at, I felt like it was a very crowded space. A lot of people were jumping in there. Felt like the cap rates were being condensed down to nothing, and I wanted more of a return. And so, kind of gravitated towards the mobile home park space. I bought a park. I had a property manager that was managing a small apartment for me in town. She had no mobile home park experience. I put her on this park and she did a phenomenal job. Kind of all the things that I wanted out of a park, this park fit. The park was poorly managed, under rented, had some deferred maintenance, kind of had all the things that I had looked for in smaller multifamily stuff. And that was kind of my proof of concept, and really just fell in love with the mobile home park space after that.
That's fantastic. That's a rare story, I would say, because most third-party managers that come from single-family rentals and multifamily, they have a tough time coming over to mobile home parks because it's definitely a different animal. Maybe you can shed some more light on that and how that management, how big of a park was that? Does she still manage your 4 parks that you have now that you've expanded?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I wasn't sure how management was going to look. So when I bought that first park, there was an on-site manager that essentially got free rent but didn't do anything. In fact, all the parks that I have bought has had on-site managers that really didn't do a lot, and in some ways probably scared some potential tenants off. So I didn't know with this property manager, she was managing a 21-unit apartment building for me in that town about an hour south of me. And I said, hey, do you have any interest in managing a park? And, I got very fortunate that she grew up in that area. She actually had a nephew that lived in my park. It was a 43-unit park. The 2 parks that I bought after that were one was 30 minutes south, one was 30 minutes north of that. And so I really just leveraged, and she actually found me one of those parks. I really just leveraged her ability to manage 3 out of 4 of the parks, and she's been phenomenal. I mean, everything, she's learned a lot, but she's really, more than anything, is she's good with people. She understands the tenant base, and she's a kind, thoughtful person that can also be tough when she needs to be. And so just more than anything, she knows how to deal with people well.
That is, from my experience, it's rare. It's a rare find, so congrats on that, man. That's wonderful. And I was lucky enough, and my first on-site manager, when I bought my first community, she still works with us to this day. And she kind of spoiled me into thinking that, man, mobile home parks, this is easy. What do you mean? This is so much different. So they're not all like that, unfortunately, but we're really happy with our team now. But it's tough to kind of keep everybody up to date on what's going on. So maybe you could shed some more light on your management and how you manage that. Does she, is it her company that manages your current 4 parks? Or is there do you manage some of it in-house?
Yeah, so she works for a property management company. All the properties I own are managed by third-party property management. I don't own a property management company. I don't have employees. I've kind of set everything up that way. So even before I got into the mobile home park space, once I hit that 17-unit mark, this was years ago, I was kind of doing everything. and it was, 10 o'clock at night and I'm fixing a toilet and had to call a plumber anyway because I wasn't that handy. I had turned everything over to property management back when I had just those 17 units. And what it allowed me to do was focus on what I was better at and what I enjoyed doing. That was putting deals together. So I'm in direct communication with my property manager. She manages 3 of the 4 parks. So when I bought my 4th park, that's in a different direction, it's an hour and a half northeast of me, I had to go on a hunt for a new manager. And again, I ended up with a residential property manager that had some apartment experience, but I vetted and called a lot of managers. And this has also turned out to be a good fit so far. And, it's a learning curve, but he understood. And with my experience with his other manager, I was able to kind of explain what I needed, what I was looking for. He understood. And again, it's been phenomenal, but it's all third-party property management right now.
Wow, Gabriel, that I will say, there's been a couple of operators we've had on the show that have used third-party managers, and it's rare to find property management companies that transfer over. So kudos to you for interviewing and finding the right one. What would you say has been the toughest hurdle for you in mobile home park ownership?
Yeah, I mean, specifically to mobile home park ownership, there was a lot that I didn't know going in. That's fine. Didn't scare me. But I think the biggest hurdle really is, I think initially it'd be finding the property manager, but I got fortunate with that. But also just changing the culture of a park. It can be tricky. So like the most recent park I bought, it wasn't managed well previously. So there's dog shit everywhere. There's garbage everywhere, and the tenants had just kind of accepted that for the most part. And so I think, having the manager come in and make those changes can be challenging if the tenant base is kind of used to it being a certain way. But I've also found, with any challenge in life, I feel like it's an opportunity. And so with this last park, it was pretty rough, but the tenants really appreciated someone coming in there and, putting a small fence around a dog, kind of a dog park area, and putting poop bags up and kind of changing the way that garbage was collected. Just kind of these minor changes. Even though they can be challenges, overall, it'll improve the park, and tenants seem to respond well. So
great. Gabriel, maybe you could tell us, what are some of the things you did to educate yourself before buying your first park?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I just, I just kind of naturally gravitated towards that space. And I shouldn't say not a lot, because I had years of experience in the multifamily space. I felt like they operated very similar in a lot of ways, and so it's the aspect that I liked really about the mobile home park space is, for the most part, I don't own the homes. I do end up with some of them, but for the most part, I don't. And so that's something I really enjoyed, that there's not a lot of, maintenance and repair calls on the homes themselves. And so even though it can be kind of, front heavy with initially buying the park and analyzing and kind of getting the park up to par, once it's running smoothly, it seems to run pretty smooth and actually be less headache for my managers.
Great. Yeah. What do you look at in terms of utility infrastructure? And maybe you could tell us about the utilities in your current portfolio.
Yeah, I like, my first park, I also got fortunate. It was all city utilities. One big advantage, a big value add there too. Part of it was billing back utilities. The other part was just the property been grossly under rented, right? And so this is something I liked a lot about the mobile home park space. A small increase in rent, a utility bill back, improved the NOI of the property greatly without me having to expend a bunch of capital. And I thought, gosh, unlike an apartment where I have to go in and maybe rehab 43 units, my property manager sent out a notice to build out utilities, sent out a notice for a small rent increase. It's still below market, right? And no tenants moved because of it. So that's city utilities. My second park was a well. I knew nothing about wells. So, I had to review the reports, get it testing. It was great water. The next part was city utilities. And then the third park had a septic system I knew nothing about. I mean, I like city utilities, but the well has been fine. And the septic, I literally knew nothing. And so I just had to talk to people that knew about it and just ask the questions. And with this particular park, they were using a lot of water, and a lot of it was, kids were home from school because COVID. Some of these homes were multi-generational families living there. So we just kind of had to get some of that stuff under control. I just didn't know what I didn't know until I learned enough to.
You're brave, man. I'll give you that. Diving in head first. That's that's definitely, takes some courage, especially with the private utilities, because I've just heard horror stories about, uh, just not doing the proper due diligence and stuff falling through. So that's good that you, got your arms around it and understood the risks.
And
How do
maybe,
you,
and I haven't owned that one long enough. So maybe, maybe I'll change my mind if you ask me a year from now. But that being said, I've never bought a property I regret buying, and I could probably have found a reason to not buy any property I've ever bought. So it's, I
sure.
kind of keep that in the back of my mind. Yes, I don't try to, buy stupid deals, and I do try to make educated decisions. But I do think, again, there are solutions to problems. And if on these parks, I'm buying them, where they're cash flow positive. Yes, there's upside, but I'm not relying on that upside. So it's, that's kind of how I hedge my risk there is,
Sure.
if something goes wrong, things are going to go wrong. It's real estate. Things happen. Kind of giving myself a little bit of that safety net of, whether it's having reserves or capital or just knowing that things are going to come up.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my mentors told me once, he's like, everything makes sense at a certain price, right? If you get it at a good enough price and the market is good, everything is worth it. So, yeah, that's awesome that yours are performing well. How do you find your deals when you're, looking to grow? I mean, you have 3 under contract right now.
Yeah.
Looks like you're looking to grow pretty quickly.
Yeah. So every deal, mobile home park or otherwise, I can trace every deal back to a conversation or relationship, and I think I've mentioned that when we were offline talking a while back, but I've never done any kind of marketing, advertising, any kind of, mass mailers. And I think there's a lot of ways to be successful in real estate. There's a lot of ways to, to find deals, and market yourself. But for me, it's just been building genuine relationships and talking with people. So, and that's not just in the mobile home park space. It's the first park I bought was a broker that was just sending me stuff, all this A-class stuff in Portland, Oregon, very expensive, very low cap stuff. And I said, hey, I'm really looking for, something that cash flows. And what I'm really looking for is a value add mobile home park. And I just kept telling them that as they kept sending me stuff that wasn't that. But when they got an in-house listing of a mobile home park, because I had told them enough times, hey, what I'm really looking for is this, they knew to call me. And I had analyzed enough of them online that I felt very comfortable when they presented me with the numbers. I felt very comfortable reading through that and going, okay, hey, here's an actual opportunity. And so that's how I bought my first one. My second one, a little more interesting of a story, because my second one, I share a lot this story because I think it illustrates the importance of building a relationship, but also seller financing, which is how I've purchased the majority of my real estate. This was a guy who I'd reached out to 10 years before. He was a developer in town. I had no idea, like mobile home parks weren't on my radar. I was just getting started. But he was a developer and he's building these amazing buildings down on campus where I live. And I'm going, who's this guy? What's his story? I just want to know who this guy is, because he was building all these things that didn't exist before, kind of tearing down these small multifamily and building these big apartments. And I reached out to him and he graciously, invited me in and kind of told me a story. Hey, I was buying these multifamily homes in the 70s when I was going to law school. And then by 2010, there was an opportunity to develop and I became a developer. And we stayed in contact. And it's not like we became best friends. We just kind of kept in touch with what each other were doing. And almost a decade later, he called and said, hey, a buddy of mine is selling a single family home in the town over. Are you interested? And I said, I'm really not. What I'm really looking for and really focused on right now is mobile home parks. And he said, I own 5 of them. And he said, one of them I would, consider selling. And I said, oh my gosh, that's great. Would you sell or finance it? And he said, yeah, I would. And that ended up being a 2% down deal. It was a 200% cash on cash return.
Wow.
So the financing was phenomenal. And finding that deal was a very natural kind of flow of just that relationship. But it's also why the terms were great. That wasn't his focus. His focus wasn't the mobile home park space. It was developing. And so even as, the seller being a sophisticated investor, it was still an opportunity for him to sell and for me to buy. And so,
Sure.
Again, I mean, every deal I can trace back to relationship. Third property was my property manager brought it to me.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What are the most important things that passive investors, we're talking limited partners here, what do they need to look out for before investing into a mobile home park deal for the first time?
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm the best answer, only because I've never raised capital. I've never brought in a partner, and I've never put money into another person's deal. I mean, I think the biggest thing though, just from from what I've seen is like just knowing the operator and their track record. I'm not against doing that. I think there's a lot of ways to invest, but being able to know and like and trust and have that open communication with the operator or someone on their team, is important. The 3 parks that I'm in contract on now, I'm going to have 2 partners on those. And part of that, again, going back to that relationship and conversation, 2 guys that are partners and friends of mine, they're partners with each other on some single family stuff. They had a mobile home park opportunity. They said, hey, Gabe's in the mobile home park world. Let's bring him in. And so that'll kind of be a new experience for me, having partner to kind of figuring out what our role in that is. But again, it's an off market deal. I know and like and trust those guys, and they know, like, and trust me. And there's different aspects that we bring to the table. One of those being they brought me the deal, through a friend of theirs. And so that's a lot of it. Like, just knowing the operator and a proven track record, I think.
Totally. And that's what a lot of people have said, when I've asked them that question is, hey, know the operator. Do you believe in their model? I think that's where a lot of the risk lies, right? Is in the jockey. So tell me, Gabriel, what is your acquisition criteria when you're looking at a mobile home park deal, and why?
Yeah, a lot of it, I like that value. I like the value add. I like the parks that are poorly managed and under rented. They have some kind of value add, but they're not relying on that. And so, that first park I bought, and I really try to look at every property very individualized. Like, how am I going to finance this? What is this property kicking off? Like, what is it that I want this property to do for me? I know some people are very systematic about, like, it has to meet this rule, this criteria. I take a little more of a holistic approach of, I'm going to look at it, but I right now I won't really look at anything below 30 units. I like city utilities, but it's not a requirement. But I like a park that's operating that works the way it sits, but that still has an upside of poorly managed, under rented. And a lot of that's going to come down to how I finance the property. Is this thing, if I did nothing today, when I close on this, is it going to produce income? Am I happy with the return? If I'm putting money down, am I happy with the cash on cash return I'm getting? And that's
Sure.
kind of how I get it.
Totally. What mistakes have you made, when you were just starting out that, maybe you would have done differently looking back?
Not sewer scoping. The first park I bought, I didn't scope the sewer. It sounds minor, but I've had no major issues there. Like, I knew it was old, but I've had to have some of that rebuilt. Not costlier than what I was anticipating, but I'd still buy that park.
What's it made of? What are the sewer lines made of?
Oh my gosh, it's whatever that paper. It's mixed. It's
Orangeburg?
like some of that, but they dug it up. And it's been kind of mismatched and all. Like, basically, I wanted to pave the park, and we had some sewer issues. I'm like, I can't pave this until I kind of get
figure those out. Yeah.
taken care of. Yeah. Thankfully, the neighboring unit of that park has an excavation and gravel company, and so and he knows that park, and so he's kind of dug it up. It's all pieced together. I don't know if it would have really made a difference. Like, I still would have bought the park. There were just some things that needed to get taken care of that I would have liked to have known up front, and probably taken care of them prior than sewer issues literally coming up through the ground.
Yep. That sounds familiar. I've dealt with those issues as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. So like these 3 parks in San Antonio that I'm in contract on, the other guys are like, hey, what are some things, what are some due diligence items? And I'm like, let's get the sewer scoped. It's a no-brainer now.
Definitely. Yeah. Learning, one of the things I made a mistake on in my third park that I bought is I didn't meet with the city or the power company engineer. I met with the electrical contractor, had him come out, do a whole report on all the pedestals and all the park-owned electrical. But I didn't meet with the power company engineer. And the park was only 75% occupied when we bought it. We planned on filling it up. So when we filled it up, we realized that the juice, there was enough pedestals there, but there wasn't enough juice getting to each of those pedestals because there wasn't enough transformers. And, some power companies provide the transformers up to the pedestal, but some don't. And this one did not. So we were like 3 transformers short, which was, like a $60,000 bill. So it's just all those little things that you learn, and your due diligence list gets longer and longer the more you're in the game. So
Yeah, no, that's actually good to know and very interesting because the parks that I'm in contract on is kind of similar in that it's 60% occupied. The parks are actually operating really well at 60%, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to keep them at 60%. We want to get them
Sure.
up to 80, 90%. And so that's something we're looking at too. We need to make sure, yeah, there's pedestals there, but we want to make sure that we're going to be able to fill these up and it's not going to be something costly. That we want them to be able to plug them in and go.
Plug and play. Yeah, totally. Have you done any looking into the MHC industry? Have you looked into like the toughest times the industry has faced? And do you have any feedback on what the future may look like for MHPs?
It's part of why I like the space. Like I feel like intuitively just the affordability of the mobile home park space. I mean, there's a huge gap between, like, I know what a 1-bedroom apartment might cost in my town, and it's a lot more expensive than a mobile home park space rent 30 minutes away. And I know they're not, it's very rare that almost any principality is allowing new parks to come in. I mean, I've heard of it. I know some people that are doing it and trying to do it, but for the most part, they're disappearing. I mean, I've been told like 1% a year they're disappearing. So I think in a lot of ways it is a solution to affordable housing. I mean, most of my tenants, even though I don't know them, intimately, but with talking to my property manager, a lot of them are in fixed income tenants. They just want a safe, affordable place to live and, either retire or raise their family if that's the case. And I think that this allows that. And I think, property is only going to, get more expensive over the long haul. And this is one of the solutions.
Totally agree with you on that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your investment firm, Hamel Investments, and, what makes you guys different.
Yeah. There's not too much about it. I mean, it's me. I said I don't have any employees. I honestly spend the majority of my time hanging out with my family and traveling. A lot of my business has been set up around the idea of just having as much time freedom as possible. And so it's why I've chose not to start a property management company or manage my own properties. It's why I've chosen, not to raise money. I'm very interested in, future partnerships on parks, but I don't personally want the responsibility, or create a job for myself. And so, for the most part, it's a lifestyle choice more than anything. And so, Hamel Investments, I'm just trying to buy more mobile home parks.
You and everybody else right now, right?
It's getting pretty frothy. I mean, I got a list of, someone sent me this morning, like a list of all these off-market mobile home park deals. And it's like 3 caps. And one of them was like 1 cap. It said 1 cap, no occupancy. And I'm just like, ugh. All right, like there's some crazy stuff out there. I think there's always opportunities in real estate and in any asset class within real estate, including mobile home parks. But I'm seeing a lot of opportunist sellers, and I've seen, properties selling that I wouldn't have interested in buying anywhere near the price point that they're selling for. So sure. It's frothy, but you gotta stick to what works.
Yeah, there's always deals out there. You just keep your ear to the pavement and find deals. What if any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you? Do you have a website they could check out or any contact information?
Yeah, my website's hamelinvestments.com, and there's links to some different podcasts and such I've been on. I'm most active on Instagram. Just find me at Gabriel Hamel, or my handle's actually Gabriel R. Hamel. But you'll find me on there. I'm fairly active with posting stuff, and I'll put this episode on my website and a link on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome, man. Really appreciate you doing that. What would be your last bit of advice? Like your one thing you would want someone to know before they invested into mobile home parks?
Yeah, I think whether it's mobile home parks or anything else, or just life in general, like if you want something bad enough, like if mobile home parks are something that you want to buy, or anything else in life that you want, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. I mean, there are people that are just kicking ass in any area of life, and so if that's important to you and it's something you want, go for it.
It seems like that's one thing that resonates with you. When you told us about that developer friend, you're like, hey, this guy's doing something. Yeah. I don't know how to do that, but I want to talk to this guy because there's something about it. So I applaud you for your massive action and I'm sure there's a bright future ahead for you, Gabriel.
Oh, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you. That's it for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Would you like to see mobile home park value add projects in progress? If so, follow us on Instagram at Passive MHP Investing for photos and awesome videos from our recent mobile home park acquisitions. Once again, that's at Passive MHP Investing on Instagram. See you there.